everyone, thanks for joining us for another deep dive. You know we love when you send us articles, and this one you sent is so interesting. I mean, the title alone.
It really is.
So it's called Moving Beyond the Ableist Roots of Educational Psychology, Audit of the Field and a Path Forward.
Wow. Yeah.
It's from the Educational Psychology Review. And, we're gonna try and understand what this article is saying and what it means, for how we understand how students learn, how we teach them.
Especially because it's all students, right?
Especially, all the different kinds of ways that students learn. And, it really is
a diverse group.
It's the diversity of learners. And this article is specifically looking at students with disabilities and how they've been included in recent educational psychology research, which, as we all know, is a cornerstone of how we think about education.
That's right. It really is kind of the bedrock of a lot of what we do in the classroom and what we think about, too, as educators. Right?
Yeah. And so it's this critical look at, whether the research that shapes our practices is truly, reflecting the experiences of all students.
That's exactly it. And they did a really nice job in this article of looking at that.
Yeah.
And they dug into 6 really prominent educational psychology journals.
Oh, wow.
So we're not talking about, small publications here.
Right.
These are the big ones that a lot of people are reading and citing. And so they took a really in-depth look at all the articles between 2010 and July of 2020.
Wow. So a whole decade.
Yeah, a whole decade. So they wanted to get a sense of, over that time period, to what extent were students with disabilities being represented in the research.
And they use the acronym SWD a lot in the article.
Right. Students with disabilities, SWD.
Yeah. So we'll probably use that too.
Sounds good.
But it really is interesting, to think about okay, we're looking at a decade's worth of research.
In these top-tier publications, have these journals been giving us a complete view of student learning over the past 10 years?
And I think one of their main points is probably not.
Yeah, and that's what we're gonna dig into. And so what they found was that across those 6 major journals, only 11.4% of the studies that were published specifically included SWD.
Yeah, and that's a really small number.
11.4%.
Yeah.
I mean, that's well under 15%. Of the research that is shaping how we understand how students learn and grow, students with disabilities weren't, a focus.
Or weren't included.
Or weren't consistently included.
It's a big gap. And I think, for me, it raises the question of, what impact could that have on how we, on the field itself?
Yeah.
Are there certain learning theories that might be flawed because of this?
Yeah.
Are there certain practices that are, unintentionally not serving this population? Yeah. It could be really incomplete as a result of this underrepresentation. So I guess that's kind of what we're going to dig into.
It is. And I think what's even more interesting is that even in the small percentage of studies that did look at SWD, they were very focused on specific areas.
Okay.
So primarily interventions for math and reading.
Okay.
And, those are important.
Of course.
No one's arguing that. Those aren't important topics.
Yeah.
But, educational psychology is so much broader than that.
Yeah, it's huge.
It's huge.
Yeah.
We're looking at motivation, social and emotional learning,
Yeah.
how classrooms are structured and managed, the role of technology, all of these things.
Yeah.
And when we're thinking about SWD, those areas are much less explored.
It's almost like, those have been kind of siloed off.
It is. It's like we're saying, okay, if we're going to study students with disabilities, we could put them over here in this little corner, and we're going to look at these 2 things, but we're not going to think about them in relation to all of these other really important things that are part of educational psychology.
And they do. Huh? They do bring up this point that, researchers in educational psychology are engaging with and citing work from special education journals, but it seems like.
Yeah.
The main body of educational psychology literature has this gap.
Yeah, and that's, I think, a big takeaway from this article for me.
Yeah.
Is that, we might be talking about this over here, but when it comes to the, the fundamental theories that we're developing in EdPsych, are we really thinking about, SW in the development of those
Are those applicable?
Right, are they applicable
to this population?
I mean, really, think about this.
Yeah.
If we're talking about, this large portion of the student population, that's consistently being left out of this foundational research.
Yeah.
How confident can we be that, what we think we know about learning and development really applies to everybody?
Right, and that's a huge question.
It is.
Because then how does that play out in the real world?
Right, exactly. What are the real world consequences of this gap in the research?
If these leading journals aren't consistently including SWD in their research, are we building a framework for understanding learning that is, potentially flawed?
That's based on a very limited view of human diversity. And I think that really leads nicely into how they introduce the concept of ableism.
Okay.
Because they describe ableism as a system of beliefs and practices that favors people without disabilities and often views disability as a deficit, as something that needs to be fixed, as something that's wrong. And so their argument is that this lack of representation can both stem from and perpetuate these ableist perspectives.
So help me understand, how does this lack of representation contribute to what they call deficit mindsets?
Well, I think if you're primarily focused on, looking at it.
Build deficits.
Okay. So, challenges in reading and math, which again are important.
Right.
But if that's the only thing you're looking at, it can really reinforce this idea that, disability is primarily defined by what a student can't do, as opposed to their strengths, their unique ways of learning, their broader experiences within the educational system. So it can really create this kind of one-sided narrative that emphasizes what's wrong.
Right, as opposed to the whole child.
Right, the whole aisle.
It's a student.
And their potential.
And I love how they bring in discrete theory, which is disability critical race studies.
Yeah, it's a great lens to look at this through.
Yeah, and it sounds like, it's really looking at how ableism doesn't exist in isolation, but it intersects with all these other forms of marginalization.
For
racism, classism, and
classism, sexism. And it helps us see how disability can be understood and experienced differently based on these intersecting parts of identity.
So it's not just saying, oh, we need more SWD in our studies.
Right.
It's about changing how we approach.
It's about changing the whole system.
Yeah, the whole study of disability.
How we think about it.
Yeah.
How we study it.
And acknowledging the societal and systemic factors and how it all interacts with inequality.
Exactly.
And so this lack of diverse perspectives in research could be really reinforcing.
I think so.
Ableist assumptions in our practices.
Unintentionally, but it could be.
Yeah, unintentionally, which is, a huge problem.
A huge problem.
It shapes everything.
It shapes everything.
The educational environment.
And I think that's a good segue into their call for change.
Okay.
Which really focuses on this idea of a proliferation.
Of epistemologies.
A methodology.
Okay, so proliferation of epistemologies. What does that even mean?
So it's a mouthful.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But basically, we're saying, we need to recognize that there's not one single correct way to understand learning and development.
So it's like there's not just one right answer.
Yeah, just one right answer.
Yeah.
And different people, different viewpoints can all contribute valuable information. And I think that's especially important when we're thinking about SWD.
Okay.
Because, their experiences are going to be so varied.
Right.
And so we need to have a lot of different tools in our toolkit.
So we need to think about different methodologies.
Right. So if we're expanding our epistemologies, our ways of thinking about learning, then we also need to expand the ways that we study learning.
Okay.
So our methodologies, and they talk about this idea, traditional quantitative methods, which a lot of educational research relies on, might not be the best way to really understand.
Yeah.
The lived experiences.
Yeah.
And the impact of different practices on SWD. So incorporating things like qualitative research, participatory research, where individuals with disabilities are actually involved in shaping. The research itself, and other innovative approaches, I think are going to be really important moving forward.
So it's not just about studying SWD.
Right.
It's about studying with them.
Studying with them.
Yeah.
As collaborators.
Yeah, and really learning from their perspective.
Exactly. And I think, they also talk about this idea of research that's both rigorous
Yeah.
and ecologically valid. So making sure that it's high quality.
So rigorous means it's good research.
It's good research. It's sound.
Yeah.
Scientific inquiry.
Yeah.
But then it's also ecologically valid, meaning it's relevant to the real world.
Yeah.
You know, and applicable to the real world.
So it's actually
useful. It's useful. It's not just theoretical.
Yeah.
It can actually be implemented.
Yeah.
You know, in a classroom or in a school setting.
And the ultimate goal, right, is for educational psychology to account for the full breadth.
The full breadth
of human diversity.
Human diversity.
And I think, that's something we all strive for.
But
no, Till, they're saying
that. We're falling short
when
it comes to SWD.
And so, if we're embracing these different research approaches, it really makes you wonder what that looks like.
It does.
You know, what would that look like in practice? Would we be seeing more research that focuses on individual stories and experiences?
I think so.
Like, would we be seeing more in-depth case studies?
More case studies, more, narrative work, I think. Also, we might see more collaborative projects, where SWD are actually involved in the research from the very beginning.
Right.
From, helping to design it.
Yeah.
To collect data.
Yeah.
To analyze the data.
So really centering. So our voices and perspectives.
Your voices and perspectives. And using methods that allow them to really share what their experience has been like. So that could involve, in-depth interviews, focus groups, even more creative approaches like photo voice or using art as a way to collect data. I think there's so much potential there.
Yeah, it's really interesting. And it's, it's really about who's included in research and who's excluded.
And they do talk about Graham's research from 1992 on the historical underrepresentation of African Americans in APA journals.
Yeah.
And I feel like, that was kind of an aha moment for me.
For me too. Because it shows that this isn't just limited to disability.
Right. It's across the board.
This is a pattern that we see in research
Yeah.
across many different fields.
Yeah.
That, research has often centered the experiences of dominant groups.
Mm-hmm.
And so we end up with this very skewed understanding of human behavior and human development. Because we're not looking at
the full picture.
The full picture. And I think that's a really important takeaway.
I think so too.
For our listeners today. You know this. Underrepresentation of SWD in research is significant.
It is. And it's not just about the numbers.
Yeah.
It's about the perspectives that are informing.
It might reflect underlying ableist perspectives within the field.
And I think what they do a nice job of is not just pointing out a problem, but also offering some solutions.
Right. They're not just complaining.
Right. They're saying, here's what we can do to move forward.
And they're really advocating for a more inclusive and varied approach to research.
Right.
So considering not only who is studied, but the methods used, and really embracing a wider range of ways of knowing.
Of understanding. Of researching. So we can really understand how humans learn.
The full spectrum of human learning.
This has been a great deep dive.
It has.
I think it's so important to examine who's included, who's excluded in research.
In anything, really.
In anything. And I think for our listeners, take that with you. Go out into the world and examine what you're reading, what you're seeing, and think about, are there any missing voices?
Whose voices are missing from this narrative? And how would that change what you're reading or what you think you know?
Exactly.
If those voices were included.
I think it would change everything.
It could, yeah. So that's something to think about.
It is.
Not just in educational psychology, but everywhere.
In life in general.
Yeah. So thanks for listening.
Thanks for having me. This was great.
Yeah, it was a great article. And thanks for sharing with us.
It was my pleasure.
We'll see you next time.
See you next time.